You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Well, we were all ready to go. Was just about to start the show and even made the thumbnail for YouTube and everything. And I checked right before that, right before we went here on the program, I checked my messages on Twitter. And a listener named Crystal sent me a story, and it changed what we were going to lead with. Now, we're going to talk about later in the program what we were going to lead with, and this is about Herschel Walker. Something happened with Joe Scarborough today involving Herschel Walker we're going to get to. But this story that Crystal sent me is an amazing story about Newsmax and Grant Stitchfield. And it's fascinating. So I changed what we're leading with and the thumbnail on YouTube and the title of the show even, because Crystal sent me this. Now, you guys out there, people message me and email me and DM me on different platforms, information and stories all the time. And I do read them, and I use the things that you send me. Some of you have my number. I don't know how some of you have my cell phone number, but text message me. And I do read everything you guys send me. But rarely, right before showtime, do I get something from someone that changes the whole direction of what the lead of the program is going to be. And Grant Stitchfield, who was on Newsmax for a long time, in that 8 o'clock time slot, talked about what happened, why they fired him at Newsmax, and he was fired. And it was an ongoing process over the course of many months, and I thought we could talk about it here because it's amazing. Now, let me tell you, I'm a huge fan of Newsmax. Chris Ruddy, who was the founder of Newsmax, I have been following Chris Ruddy before there was a Newsmax. Chris Ruddy, the first time I remember hearing about Chris Ruddy, I don't remember how he got his information out. It's been so long, right? But the first time I heard about Ruddy, who's the founder of Newsmax, who's amazing, is in the early days of Clinton, right? Remember Troopergate with the Arkansas State Troopers that would take Clinton to meet the prostitutes and all this stuff, you know? And he had these guys and interviewed them and everything. And we used to have him on the radio and way back then, and there was no internet then. So there wasn't even a Newsmax.com because there were no .coms yet. It was before all that. And I don't remember how he got his information out back then. It's been so many years. But I've always been a fan of Chris Ruddy and Newsmax, and I'm still a fan of Newsmax today. However, Grant Stitchfield, what he talked about led to his firing at Newsmax is upsetting. You know what it is, Kathy. So, I mean, I'm a little disturbed by it.
I didn't know if you were going to play part of his...
No, I'm just going to tell people.
Yeah, well, I'll let you tell what happened, and then I'll comment on that. But it was, upsetting, and I think it says a lot about Newsmax, but I think this is how it is in network news. Yeah. It's extremely competitive and cutthroat. Mm-hmm. And when you have a network that's hungry, and they're coming up, and they're starting to get views and ratings, and they're on the cusp, like on the heels of their competitor, makes you do crazy things. I mean, you know what I mean? Because you want to get to that level, and you're so close, you can taste it, and you start losing your ethics.
Well, okay. Now, Newsmax had been around for a number of years, and no one watched it till MAGA people abandoned Fox News, and he acknowledged that. Yeah, he talked about that, and
when that happened,
when Newsmax was new on television, not before, long before, many years ago, before the abandonment of Fox News by MAGA conservatives, I gave Newsmax a try many, many times, and it was they had documentaries. I love documentaries, but they were airing documentaries that reminded me of what we used to watch, like in the fourth grade in the 70s and 80s and stuff in elementary school. They were terminally boring, and I gave up on Newsmax. And
that's how a lot of new networks start. They run a lot of reruns of old shows, old documentaries while they're getting their monies together and trying to produce content. So that's not unusual.
Yeah, but it was awful and not watchable. And then when we all left Fox News and discovered Newsmax, it was like a switch. And I did not realize the huge changes that had gone on at Newsmax with beautiful sets and great personalities like Greg Kelly and Stitchfield and all this. I did not know this. And I was like, wow, what have we been missing here? How did we not know about this? You know, it was great. And he talked about how the ratings went up into the millions each and every night for Greg Kelly and him and others. And then it slowed down a little bit, and he was getting 300,000, 500,000 a night. But, you know, it had gone.
Which is still better than Anderson Cooper.
And much better. And much better than they were doing before.
Yep.
But he said that they went to him, Newsmax, because Grant Stitchfield was on at 8 o'clock. And honestly, I didn't watch him that much. Around that time of night, I tune out the news because I go to bed very early because I'm on the radio so early. And I have to wind down and get off the news around that time so I can relax to go to sleep because the news will stress you out.
That's the toughest time slot. If you're a conservative, if you're anybody in the news, that's the toughest.
Going up against Tucker's tough.
Tucker. I mean, nobody wants
going against Tucker's. So he was on at 8 against Tucker Carlson, and he said the Newsmax executives wanted to recapture the ratings that they'd experienced briefly at Fox News' expense because people felt betrayed by Fox News. And wanted him to very specifically on a nightly basis go after Tucker Carlson on the show. Troll Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, troll him, attack
Tucker Carlson. And he said he couldn't get himself to do it because he agreed with Tucker on so many things. And they pressured him, and he said he'd find some tiny little things to criticize him on, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So,
and then he said they brought in Dick Morris to help.
Yeah, so they brought on Dick Morris, who was very happy to attack Tucker Carlson, and they did that.
I wonder why, because he's a liberal? I mean, or why do you think that is?
I don't know. Dick Morris is an old Democrat. He works for President Trump, and he's doing great work for President Trump, but he still is a Democrat who got Bill Clinton elected as governor and reelected as president, and he even worked on Dick Morris. My recollection is he worked on Tony Blair's campaign when he first became prime minister.
I think that's true.
Yeah, him and James Carville, if I remember correctly, but it's been many years. But anyway, so Stitchfield said they brought on Dick Morris, who was happy to attack Tucker, and we did that, and I was uncomfortable with it. And then he said the war between Russia and Ukraine started, and Newsmax, this was Grant Stitchfield talking, this is absolutely amazing. He said Newsmax had a position, and their position was very, very strongly pro-Ukraine. He is not. He feels like a lot of us do, that it's corrupt. It's a wag the dog war. It's a corrupt war so that Biden and others can make money.
He said what you said, that it's not good guy versus bad guy. It's bad guy versus bad
guy. That's right. And it's not our affair, right, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very reasoned position.
Yeah.
But he said Newsmax came to him and said his position was not the position of the network. And they wanted him to attack Putin, attack Russia, and be very pro-Ukraine. Now, listen, Putin's not a good guy.
What is Tucker's position? Tucker is pro-Putin. Tucker attacks the Ukraine.
He attacks Ukraine like we attack, Ukraine. Right. But you got two bad guys. So he could not get himself to attack Russia, to attack Putin, and be pro-Ukraine. Right. They put up with it for a while. This was Grant Stitchfield talking. They put up with it for a while, but they weren't happy with him. And then Greta Van Susteren, it was announced, was going to join Newsmax. Yeah. And he said all the hosts, including Sean Spicer and Greg Kelly, were very concerned they were going to get the axe. And they made because they had to free up an hour. And some of those shows during the day are 2 hours long. So Grant Stitchfield said he thought they would shave an hour off of one of the daytime shows to make room for her, which they didn't. They eliminated him and moved Eric Bolling to his time slot, who is I don't watch Eric Bolling on Newsmax, but Grant Stitchfield said he's got an axe to grind with Fox. We all know that. And he regularly attacks Tucker Carlson, and Newsmax is happy about that. And that's why they fired him. And I'll tell you, I'm still a fan of Newsmax. I think Greg Kelly has the best show on cable
Rob
news.
Schmidt's really good.
Rob Schmidt is a very close number two. Rob Schmidt on Newsmax, who comes on after Greta, and Greg Kelly have the two best shows on cable news. Greta Van Susteren is terminally boring, and it pains me to say that. I interviewed her on the radio when she just started her TV show, and she made a big point to tell me she has no opinions on anything, which that's just
exciting.
That's just not how it works doing a talk show these days on television. And Eric Bolling, I've said this before, Eric Bolling is very good. I like Eric Bolling, but he's not a sole personality. When he was on Fox News, he never did a show solo. He was was on the 5, and then he had that show with the strange name, The Specialist.
That was so stupid.
And he was on there with Kat. And
Ebony something.
And some girl that I don't remember. And he was part of a panel there too. And it was good. But when he's by himself, he's just not a strong enough personality as you would. And I think he seems half asleep.
And I have to tell you, that show, The Specialist, that was a stupid name. It sounded like the name of a cheesy movie. He's not good at naming.
It was that Stallone movie where he was a hitman.
With Sharon Stone.
And Antonio Banderas.
He's not good at naming shows. Like, I don't like the name of a show now, The Balance.
Oh, yeah.
That's a dumb name, too. But when that Specialist came on, I like Kat Timpf. She looked very uncomfortable there. It was kind of like they made her do it. I told you, this show's never going to last. It's got a stupid name. Mm-hmm. The hosts have no chemistry. It's just a dumb concept. It will not last more than a year, I promise you. And even so, anyway, he got fired because of all that other stuff that went on.
Yeah.
But the Stitchfield thing, I have to say this. I really admire him for having conviction, which is probably something a lot of people don't have in that business because they want to keep their job. And it makes you think, how many people on networks, they say what the network tells them to say, and if they don't, they get fired. Now, I'm sure a lot of reporters believe what they're saying anyway. But once in a while, there might be somebody like Stitchfield. I don't know. You know what? There's people at Fox that probably hate Trump, hate conservatives, but like Carl Cameron. I could have sworn he was a big conservative. He's a big liberal a-hole. But he towed the party line to keep his job. Mm-hmm. So this happens all the time at networks. You represent the network. You speak for the network. I mean, I don't hear disclaimers on networks. They don't represent, like they play on the radio show, the views and opinions. You don't hear that on a network news station. Mm-hmm. They represent the network and they say what they want them to say. So you have to give the guy credit for sticking to his convictions, but it cost him his job. And I'm very disappointed in that. And I'm disappointed in Newsmax that the tack they want to take to try, they're never going to unseat Tucker. That's never going to happen. He's got too many views. But the tack they want to take is to try to bring him down, is to attack him. They really just want to troll him and get him to respond. And I just think there's better ways to get an audience.
Yeah.
Like maybe just have better producing, be ahead of the game, get the stories out before Tucker, and just work your ass off to get better commentary and get better guests. That's the way to do it. But to do this where you're going to attack Tucker, I think it's a crappy way to do it. Even though that's how it is, I just don't. I don't like it.
I'm very disappointed in Newsmax, and I'll tell you why. Yeah. Okay, Greta Van Susteren show is terminally boring, and it should be
boring. Yeah.
It should be discontinued, quite frankly, or moved to like 2 a.m. or the weekends.
I'm sure it will eventually.
And Eric Bolling is a disappointment. And Newsmax, when people discovered Newsmax, when they left Fox News, Newsmax, the ratings went through the roof because of what they were doing. And when you bring in the retreads from, keep in mind, Greta Van Susteren has worked. She worked at CNN, then she went to Fox, then she left Fox and went to MSNBC, and now she's at Newsmax. And Eric Bolling, they're bringing in these Fox News retreads. They're bringing in these mainstream media people. And I remember Greta Van Susteren, and I was hoping she would change, and I gave her the benefit of that, but she's gotten worse. But Greta Van Susteren became well known during the O.J. Simpson trial. She became a legal commentator for CNN during the trial. She was a law professor. O.J. Simpson said she was his favorite analyst, that he watched her every night in the jail cell at the end of the trial. And she got the first interview. She scored that interview. She went back to the mansion in Brentwood with him when he got out of jail, got the first interview with O.J. So never forget that. I asked her about that, too, when I interviewed her. I think she was surprised I remembered all those days. I remember because I watched 9 months of that trial. what I'm afraid is happening at Newsmax is it's becoming Fox News, and
they're getting cutthroat because they're number 4, and they sometimes beat CNN. Greg Kelly beat Martha. I mean, Fox moved their lineup around because of Greg Kelly, because he destroyed her. And they really should have put Greg Kelly up against Tucker, because he could have really given him a run for his money just based on his talent and ability. Because let me tell you, he has got amazing producers, better than Tucker. They find stuff from the archives, stuff that I'm like, how did they find this? His show is incredible. And I think attacking Tucker and trolling him night after night is a bad look. It's not a good idea. It's not sustainable.
Yep.
And I think they should have put Greg Kelly at 8 o'clock and just really produced and put everybody on that show, the top people, and said, look, temporarily, we're going to put a lot of money into this show because this is going to make a name for us and help the whole network across the board. And everybody would get on board with that and be like, yes, let's help Greg Kelly. It'll benefit everybody. And that can happen. But instead, they wanted Stinchfield to make his career by bashing Tucker. Now, once in a while is okay, but he said they wanted him to do it every night. And that's no way to make a career. I agree with him on that. And who wants to build a career by attacking the top guy?
They've gotten
it's a crappy
a
thing
little
to do.
too generic. Now, we're going to welcome a new sponsor to the program. You'll hear the commercial during the recorded break, but I want to tell you guys to be on the lookout. Listen, you'll hear during the break. There's a listener to the program who contacted us at BrianCraigShow.com. We've told you that if you have something you would like to promote, something you would like to advertise on the program, go to BrianCraigShow.com, send us an email there, and we'll talk. And we have someone joining us today, an author, Robert Allen Miltenberg. He has a book that's available on Amazon. It's called Pool Boy to the Mob. You'll hear the recorded commercial during the break, but he worked at a mob-owned hotel in Miami Beach in the 70s, and it's a fictionalized account of his experiences there, and it sounds amazing. I want to order this book myself, but welcome.
He's sending you a copy.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
So we'll read it.
That's awesome.
Soon. Yep.
So I want to welcome Robert Allen Miltenberg to the program as a sponsor. His book, Pool Boy to the Mob, and it's available on Amazon. We'll be right back.
Want to know where all the bodies are buried? Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob, Everybody Out of the Pool. Author Robert Allen Miltenberg holds the key to that question in his book, Pool Boy to the Mob. Welcome to Mob-Amy Beach. This book is a fictionalized account of Miltenberg working at a mob-owned Miami Beach hotel in the 70s. If you're a fan of The Godfather, Goodfellas, or The Sopranos, you will love this story that's full of colorful characters and wisecracking wise guys. It's a story with everything from Playboy bunnies and weaponized parrots to shattering the glass ceiling and getting away with murder, all in paradise. This is a wise guy tale you've never heard. Surrounded by pools, the trick for Bobby Moskowitz was not slipping in the one thicker than water. Bobby lived to tell the tales, and now you can read all about it. The funniest mob novel since Jimmy Breslin's The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Pool Boy to the Mob, Everybody Out of the Pool, from author Robert Allen Miltenberg, available on Amazon. Order your copy right now. Being retired doesn't have to be boring. Bring some fun into any retiree's life with a copy of Relish Your Retirement. 501 fun, insightful, and simple ideas to a blissful retired life for women. From author Florence Phillip. With endless time to do what you want, sometimes it's hard to know what to do. Relish Your Retirement includes insightful and fun ideas to lighten and brighten any retirement life. Inside this feel-good book, you'll discover how to get the best out of life in your retirement years. Learn why retirement will be the best chapter of your life. Discover the 5 stages of retirement you should be aware of and which phase you are in now. There are unique, simple, useful, and fun things to do without blowing through your savings. How to improve and maintain emotional and physical well-being in your golden years. Nurturing your relationships and deepening bonds. There are simple and enjoyable activities for ladies with limited mobility. Cheerful and indulgent ideas for foodies. There's a beautiful chapter on giving back to your community. There are also insightful activities and journaling at the end end of each chapter that you do not want to miss, and much, much more about relishing your retirement. Give your friends, retiring coworkers, and relatives the gift of endless activities to explore and enjoy, with easy-to-follow practical ideas for everyone. Relish your retirement. 501 fun, insightful, and simple ideas to a blissful retired life for women, by author Florence Phillip. Available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook. Add some love and healing to your podcast playlist by tuning into High by Jenny T. High stands for Healing in God's Hands, a podcast about healing through prayer and praise. In each episode, Jenny T creates a safe space where she hopes to uplift and encourage you to heal and grow. Featuring insights from Jenny T's life and the stories of others, High lets you know that you are never alone. You deserve time for reflection and healing. Listen to High by Jenny T on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. So that Stitchfield story I thought was very important to talk about, and I'm glad we did.
Where can people listen to his podcast?
I'm going to tweet the video.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet the video that I watched that the listener sent me, and you guys can go on my Twitter, go to BrianCraigShow.com. All my social media links are there. I will tweet that, and you can watch him talk about it on the video. Now, what I was going to lead with it is very important, and this is amazing. Joe Scarborough just went on a tear against Herschel Walker. And I'm going to play this, and we'll talk about it as we go through it. And it's really fascinating. I know none of you have heard this because no one watches Morning Joe, because Morning Joe is on television when I'm on the radio in the morning. And I know all you guys are watching me and listening to me. But I saw this online today, though, earlier today after I got off the air. And Joe Scarborough has had a meltdown over
another one,
Herschel Walker. And he's channeling this through Rick Scott, who is our former governor in Florida. Rick Scott is one of the senators from Florida. We got Marco Rubio and Rick Scott. And Rick Scott was our governor for 8 years. He was the governor before Ron DeSantis. And he was a very, very good governor. Very good. And actually got us through some hurricanes and did amazing things. So Rick Scott, since he's in charge of the Republican Senate, campaigns and fundraising, he's got a lot of say in what's going on with Herschel Walker, and he's been supportive of Herschel Walker. And Morning Joe just had a complete meltdown today. This guy's unglued. And a lot of you may not remember, just so you know, Joe Scarborough is not only from Florida, he currently lives in Florida. He and Mika, even though the backdrop on television is Washington, D.C., they live in Jupiter, Florida, and Palm Beach County, just a couple miles away from Don Jr., okay? So they just pretend to be in Washington all the time. And Joe Scarborough used to be a Republican. Now I think he's a registered independent. He cowered out. But Joe Scarborough was a Republican member of Congress from Florida. And Mika Brzezinski, his wife, her father was the national security advisor for President Carter. I can't remember his first name, but Brzezinski. And he is one of the people that was giving national security advice to Jimmy Carter during one of the most humiliating moments in American history, the Iranian hostage situation. So her father's a rocket scientist of diplomacy, right? So anyway, here's Joe Scarborough in this Herschel Walker meltdown. We're going to go through this thing, and Kathy and I will stop down and talk about it as we go. It's beautiful. Listen.
Rick Scott says Georgia Values is having 4 children that you abandoned. I mean, I think 4 children that you do not raise. 4 that we know so far.
Okay. Now here's the thing. Shocker. Okay. A football star who I'm sure was a football star in high school, college, and then an NFL star. Shocker. He's a player. When he was a younger guy, he was a player and had lots of women and girlfriends and things like that. Shocker. Now, this thing that he has 4 children he has abandoned, I don't know how true that is, When I think of abandon, I think of a baby daddy who's got 4 kids with 3 or 4 different baby mamas.
Like Nick Cannon.
Yeah, well, no, and pays no child support, doesn't support the kids and all of that. I don't know if that's true with Herschel Walker or not.
I'm sure it's not.
Because he's a very successful and wealthy man. But, so having 4 kids by all these different women.
Believe me, if he wasn't supporting, these women would have taken him to court and made him support. He's got money.
I'm not saying this is a good thing, but abandon, that's a little harsh. All right, so let's get back to it.
Or that you do not raise. He says that Georgia values are
Don't you hear Meek in the background?
I think she's making that noise about Joe.
Maybe.
I think she's tired of him.
I mean, in real time, we saw on this show when this woman was brought up, Walker lied. He goes, like she doesn't exist. I don't know who this person is.
Okay. This is very important to point out, okay? This is a reference to the woman who claims that 12 years ago she had an abortion, that he told her to have an abortion and paid her for it, and she's got a receipt. Herschel Walker, what he said was pretty interesting stuff. He said, they never released who she is, okay? He says, I have no idea who was making this claim against me, that they had an abortion with my child. He says, I've never told anyone to get an abortion, and I don't know who this is making the claim against me because the media won't say who it is.
Right.
And they haven't even called me for a comment. So, yeah.
That means it's made up.
He doesn't know. Yeah, and of course, we talked about this.
There is no name because there's no person.
And who has a receipt for an abortion, especially one from 13 years ago? She didn't keep the baby, but she kept the receipt for the abortion, right?
And then we find out that this person that Walker says on the campaign trail to Georgia voters, Georgia values, a politician lying through his teeth about abortions, a politician lying through his teeth.
Now look, now all of a sudden it's multiple abortions. The claim was one abortion.
He's just rambling on.
And Herschel said it didn't happen.
He's just attacking him, and he has very little facts. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's just attacking Herschel Walker. They're getting panicked because the election's in less than a month.
And you know what?
They're freaking out. And he's winning. Obviously, Herschel's winning.
Let's say that,
That's why they're losing it.
Yeah. Let's say the abortion really happened. How's that Herschel Walker's fault? If a woman goes and has an abortion and she goes and does it, how are you as the man able to stop them?
Exactly. It's so amazing because the left are just such hypocrites, and you can always point out their hypocrisy. Their whole thing is women's right to choose, my body, my choice. So you're right. If a woman chooses to go and have an abortion and say it happened and she gets to have, and he pays for it, in their mind, why is that a bad thing? I mean, they're all for
that. They're trying to say he's a hypocrite.
About children that he's the father of, who he's abandoned 4 children. He says the woman doesn't exist. At the same time, the woman is texting his wife. At the same time, the woman is talking to the New York Times. At the same time, the woman is saying, not only did I have one abortion because he pressured me to do it, he wanted me to have a second abortion, and I refused to do it. So that was the end of our relationship. Walker says this woman doesn't exist.
Okay. This is the first time that I've ever seen an accusation made against a man running or holding public office by a woman where, like, Gloria Allred didn't come out and have a press conference with the woman.
Because there is no woman.
Or she's lying. Or there is a woman and is lying.
I think there is no woman. And the fact that Joe Scarborough doesn't even know who the hell she is and what her name is, he doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Yet, in 2014, he started paying child support for the child that his girlfriend refused.
You know what I mean? He's all confused.
Okay, now
he's all confused.
Now I thought Joe Scarborough began by saying he doesn't take care of any of these children out of wedlock, but now he's paying child support.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't know what he's saying. So he's all over the place.
So he's doing right by this woman and the child.
I don't know.
I think when you see all of this, you see the lying going on in real time. You see the abandonment of 4 children. You understand what Peggy Noonan wrote about this weekend for the Wall Street Journal when she said Republicans don't understand what's the central crisis for this campaign. It's not the abortions.
Nope.
It's not that he's made mistakes in the past.
Nope.
And Peggy says what I think most people say, that we're all humans. We all sin. We all make mistakes. Peggy says, though, that's not the problem. The problem is that he is abandoned 4 children. And
Okay. Now, this is, I'm not going to play any more of it. It goes on and on. He's hysterical, Joe Scarborough. But you know, the thing about it, what he's frustrated about is that all of these slanderous attacks on Herschel Walker have not worked. That they had these stories that in the 80s and 90s would have done in a Republican, and he's still doing well on the polls. He is projected to win. He's probably even gained in the polls.
Well, I
don't know what he's talking about here. He was married before Mika and has children.
Yeah.
With his, now I know they're grown children, but he was married before. Now all of a sudden he's some Puritan, Joe Scarborough.
Well, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. You can sense the desperation and like you said, the frustration in his voice. And it's like they asked Joe to go after this guy. They're sicking him, like they sick a dog on somebody. They're sicking him on Herschel just to go after him and start attacking him because it's getting closer and closer and they're panicked. And obviously they're panicked because he's winning in the polls. And this is what they do in politics. The people that are winning. It's really interesting when you see attacks amping up on a certain person when they hone in on somebody. It's because that person is winning. And interestingly, too, Dr. Oz, things have definitely flipped for Dr. Oz, okay? And I know a lot of people are on the fence about Dr. Oz or don't like Dr. Oz, but you have to give him props for how he has turned things around. And I admire him for this. Now, it has helped him, I would say, that Fetterman cannot put 2 sentences together, and that has not helped Fetterman. He can't get through a speech in 5 minutes. The guy clearly is still not recovered from his stroke.
Oh, yeah.
And really, to me, it's detrimental to his health to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And his wife should make him drop out. But he's stuck now. But Dr. Oz, other than that, which is maybe helping Oz a little bit, Dr. Oz has been going door to door. He has been giving speeches after speeches. He has been going to businesses. He's been going around Pennsylvania, meeting everybody. The guy is campaigning like Trump. He is out there every day.
Oh, yeah.
Door to door, meeting people, and he has turned this race around. And now they're saying they're tied, which means Oz is ahead. But he was way behind, like by 10 points, which I cannot even imagine. But I think he's going to win this. And I think it's twofold. I think it's because Fetterman clearly is not medically capable of the job. And I mean, this is a 6-year job. The guy's not capable. He can't even get through a sentence properly. He's clearly has some cognitive problems. He's actually sounds worse than Biden sometimes, and he's half his age. And Oz, on top of that, like I said, he is campaigning. He's meeting people, and people have been talking to the local news how they really like Dr. Oz. He really is starting to get to know the people. I think that whole crudité incident really made him wake up. And I think maybe Trump talked to him and said, look, you're coming across very elitist and very out of touch. You need to meet the people face to face, talk to them, stop doing these stupid TikTok stunts and talk to them about what they need, what they want, and you need to meet the people. And I think Trump probably told him that. And he said, if you campaign like crazy and you get out there, he said, you'll beat this guy because this guy can't do it.
You know what it is? Okay.
He's turned things around.
We'll use these 2 races, right? Herschel Walker and Dr. Oz. But this applies to all the races around the country.
Races.
There's a lot of things going on here. See, back in the 80s or 90s, this thing with Herschel Walker, with this woman making a claim, this anonymous woman, it would have been over a week ago. They would have been out of the race, or they would have given up. Okay, it would have been done.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened to Gary, what's his face?
Gary Hart. No, this.
Yeah,
well, see,
and that was just a photograph.
The thing is, the Democrats have lost total touch with the pulse of the American people. I talk about this a lot because it's never been more obvious than this election. And they've lost their juice, their power. They used to be able to slander a candidate, or they were always Republicans, and humiliate them to drop out or cause the people to abandon them. And I remember I was telling you last week that the leaders of the Republican Party are these old people, Pelosi and Biden. And
a lot Democrat Party.
Yeah, the Democrat. What did I say?
Republican.
Oh, the Republican establishment too.
Yeah.
But the Democrat Party is run by Pelosi and Biden. And I know a lot of you say they're not running anything. The people beneath them that we don't even know their names that run everything are a bunch of old timers too. They're running a campaign out of the 80s and early 90s where they think, well, you know, the Republican Christian conservatives with this Herschel Walker story, they'll drop them. Let me tell you. No Republican is going to allow some Democrat to go to the Senate instead of Herschel Walker over this ridiculous, absurd, slanderous claim of an abortion 13 years ago. Even if it was true, they wouldn't care. Now, Dr. Oz.
I think Trump shifted people's thinking in that regard.
There's a bigger picture.
It used to be different. He would say there's a bigger picture. You got to think of it. And Jerry Falwell Jr. said the same thing. Of course, he has his own problems, but he said there's a bigger picture. You have to look past those things.
Well, yeah,
and a lot of it's not true anyway.
Like, for example, I gave 2 examples that are perfect examples. Back in 2008, almost 80,000 Floridians that were Republican did not vote for Mitt Romney. And it was Romney, I'm talking about in the general, Romney versus Obama. And it was almost 80,000 Republicans in Florida would not vote for Mitt Romney. They left it blank on the ballot.
Because he was Mormon.
And they're evangelical Christians. And, you know, and that's, I understand, but that's absurd. So they're going to have this anti-Christian guy. I mean, that's like voting for Obama. And there's other examples I could use. I'm not going to go through any others, but that's just one. Another one I gave was Giuliani wasn't supported in the primaries because he was pro-gay rights. So we got a flawed candidate out of that. You know, and these old timers running the Republican establishment and the Democrat Party think that those things still apply, and they don't. Like, for example, Dr. Oz with the crew today. As stupid as that sounds today, 25 years ago, it would have been over for Dr. Oz because of that. He would have been the media, the liberal mainstream media used to be very powerful because there were no other outlets. Now they're a small little minority fringe of the news and information, and they can't admit it to themselves that they're not significant. They still think that they have the power. They're like Napoleon on Elba. They still think they have the power, but they don't. And what you heard with Joe Scarborough there, the reason I played it is because I wanted you to hear the frustration from the mainstream media that their lies and slanders against Republicans just don't work anymore.
Yeah, you can hear the frustration. Like, why aren't you believing me? Like, why are people still supporting this guy?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think there's been a shift. Plus, there's been a culture shift. Young people have babies out of wedlock now. It's common practice for a guy to be a baby daddy. I hate to say it. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right.
There's a bigger picture.
But there's a bigger picture, and the culture, it's not as scandalous as it used to be. You know what I mean? Because it's more common. People don't get married when they get pregnant like they used to. And for a guy to have multiple kids with different women, it's not that unusual these days. So when he says things like that, plus you have all these women coming forward right before elections. People are kind of tired of these women coming forward, and we don't even know who this woman is. But right before an election, it's always a Republican, and some woman from the past comes forward with something scandalous. People are like, oh, here we go again. They're kind of tired of hearing these stupid stories, and they just want to move past it and be like, look, fine, but I can't afford to buy food. I just read an article today how young people, millennials and Gen Z, are foregoing one meal a day and eating ramen now. Ramen is something you eat in college. And they're eating ramen because
ramen.
I'm just saying, it's a cheap thing. It's like $1 a pack. How young people that are married and living in a home cannot afford food, so they're skipping meals and they're eating ramen now regularly because they cannot afford food. And that is what people care about. The gas prices are going back up again because of all this OPEC stuff. People are like, look, whatever went on in his personal life, right now, I don't give a damn, okay? I just want things to go back to the way they were before Biden. I want to be able to put gas in my car and be able to afford groceries. Grocery prices have doubled and tripled. I see it because I do the grocery shopping. I can't believe how much some things cost. And there's things I don't buy anymore that I used to buy regularly that I will not buy anymore. Brian and I used to go to Chipotle twice a week. It was like our favorite place to eat. We now go twice a month.
They raised their prices
Everything,
through the roof.
It's so expensive now for the two of us to eat. It's like $12 more each meal now. They just jumped. That's just one small example. But people are like, they're tired of paying so much for everything. They're tired of this massive inflation. So they're like, look, whatever problem he has with his baby mamas or whatever, I don't give a damn right now. I just want to get somebody in who's not going to just spend my money like crazy on this war, and so I can get gas in my car.
That's right. Now, listen, I saw Mike Lindell at the rallies over the weekend. He said the FBI still have not given him back his phone.
Wow.
And we knew nothing was found on those because they would have leaked it out.
Absolutely.
It's been weeks now.
They haven't, and you know what? Nothing has been found on anything.
Exactly, because they found nothing because there was nothing.
That's right.
But, we are now officially in Christmas shopping season. We're almost in the middle of October. And, if you go to MyPillow.com, a great way to support not just the Brian Craig Show podcast, but all the content I'm connected to, right? The radio show, the podcast, my YouTube channel, everything that I do with Steve Kane, with Kathy. A great way to support all of my endeavors is to go to MyPillow.com and use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Whatever specials you see at MyPillow.com, you can take advantage of with our promo code Kane, Kane at checkout. But you're going to hear me talking a lot this week about the MyPillow bathrobe. Right now, the lowest price ever on the MyPillow bathrobe. And this is a great Christmas gift for anyone on your Christmas gift giving list. Great for your spouse. You can get a his and hers, but also great for mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, even the kids. The MyPillow bathrobes are being offered at the lowest price ever. And you're going to hear me talk about it all week long because the price is so low on the MyPillow bathrobes. They're going to start running out of inventory on sizes and colors, and it's going to happen quick because they've never sold the MyPillow bathrobes at this low price. They're half off. They are half off. And they have two different types of robes, a heavy robe and a light robe. Kathy and I have the heavier robe. We have about a year and a half now because they didn't have the light robe when we got these. They are wonderful. I was wearing my MyPillow bathrobe at the radio station this morning when I was on the air. It is as soft. It looks just as was the day I got it. It looks like the day I got it, and it is a beautiful robe. Mine's gray. Kathy is white. They have the light robe as well. They come in many different colors, including pink for the ladies. They have burgundy, browns, blues, all kinds of great colors. So go to MyPillow.com. They are half off right now. Okay, the MyPillow bathrobes. Buy them. This is the time to do your Christmas shopping. Make sure to use the promo code Kane at checkout, Kane.
If you're a fan of stories that make you afraid to turn the lights off at night, then you will love Moonless Nocturne, Tales of Dark Fantasy and Horror. From attorney, former Air Force officer, special agent for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and Bram Stoker award-winning author, Hank Schwabel. Moonless Nocturne is a chilling set of 10 tales that offers an exquisite and impressive showcase of the author's talents that are sure to entertain and intrigue readers who love a good thrill. With an introduction by the iconic F. Paul Wilson, Moonless Nocturne is a gourmet platter of both red meat and rare delicacies, not only for aficionados of horror, mystery, thrillers, and suspense, but any connoisseurs of fantastic fiction. It's inventive and original. This collection has already been optioned for television and film by Lone Tree Entertainment and is certain to appeal to fans of King, Barker, Matheson, and Jackson. It's not the dark that should scare you, it's all the things that lurk there. Order your copy right now on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Moonless Nocturne, Tales of Dark Fantasy and Horror, from author Hank Schwabel. It's time to vibe with a purpose. Vibing with Purpose is an Etsy shop that wants to speak to your soul with items that are perfect for all occasions and holidays. And everything is meant to spoil and pamper you. Online at etsy.com/shop/vibing with purpose. You will find something that speaks to your spirit in their spiritual healing shop that allows you to be taken care of. Make sure to check out their amazing sprays, accessories, home decor bath salts, their self-care gifts, candles, crystals, ritual boxes, and so much more. Don't let bad vibes weigh you down. Let Vibing with Purpose lift you up. All orders are shipped fast directly to you. Shop now and receive 30% off when you use the code SAVE30. That's SAVE30 to get 30% off. Etsy.com/shop/vibing with purpose. Get your family off their phones and into the kitchen. Bring some fun and learning to your dinner time with Chop Chop Magazine. Chop Chop Magazine is an award-winning publication full of recipes, nutritional education, and fun activities. You'll never have to worry about what to feed your picky eater ever again. Teach your kids that cooking real food is fun. With the Edible Alphabet, kids will learn about healthy foods while developing skills to last them the rest of their life. Are you ready for a fun family dinner night? Head to chopchopfamily.org and get started. That's chopchopfamily.org.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Well, there's a new voicemail that Joe Biden left for Hunter, and this is in the Daily Mail. You got to get some help. Joe Biden's tearful voicemail plea to Hunter, revealing he knew his son was having a drug-fueled meltdown at the time he bought a gun and lied about being a drug abuser on the purchase form. Joe Biden sounds close to tears. I want to play this audio in just a moment. Joe Biden sounds close to tears as he begs Hunter to get help in a voicemail. This is in October 2018. The timing of the message reveals Biden knew about his son's drug-fueled meltdown at the time he purchased a gun 3 days earlier on October 12th. Hunter lied about being a drug user when filling out a sworn gun purchase form at a Delaware store. Hunter checked off that he was not a user of illegal drugs, but later admitted in his own memoir that he was a crack addict at the time. Lying on gun forms is a felony, punishable by a maximum of 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. That's the maximum. So,
jeez, I didn't realize it was such a harsh penalty.
I don't know what the minimum sentencing guideline is on that. I've not seen that anywhere, but federal minimum sentencing guidelines, the judges have no leeway. If there's a conviction, they got to go by that.
Yeah.
It was revealed Thursday that federal agents believe there's enough evidence to charge Hunter with crime. So let me play this audio.
Dad, I called to tell you I love you. I love you more than the whole world, pal. Can I get some help? I don't know what to do. I know you don't either, but I'm here no matter what you need. No matter what you need, I love you.
Okay. I don't think he sounds like he's on the verge of tears. I think he sounds like he's asleep.
Yeah, he sounds a little tired.
He sounds like he's tired or drunk.
I don't think Hunter wants to get help. You know, I think Hunter loves his lifestyle. He, has tons of money. He gets to give into all of his vices. The best way Joe Biden can help his kid is to cut off the money. And he won't do that. He enables his addictions by giving him access to his position and giving him access to millions of dollars. I mean, he's living in a $65,000 a week or a month place, a month in Malibu. Who's paying for that? I mean, he enables him. The best way to give him help is cut him off. That's the best way to do it. Tell him, I'm not giving you any more money. We're not. But he uses his son for his deals. He takes him on trips to China and all over the place, funnels money through him. He does deals with all these people, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. That is what is enabling his lifestyle. It's not. And I think Hunter likes it. I don't think Hunter has any intention of stopping.
Yeah.
He has a completely selfish existence. He doesn't care how it affects anybody else. And his father is fueling it with these millions of dollars coming in. So, I don't feel sorry for a guy like that. He's enabling his
You know what he's like? Hunter Biden's a lot like Prince Andrew. He figures he's a part of the royal family. I'm talking about Hunter here. Yeah. And
he is a lot like Prince Andrew.
And he should be able just to do whatever it is that he wants to do. There's no accountability, and they're rich. There's something to be said. I know people like to say money can't buy happiness, and that's always easy to say for people that are wealthy, you
can pick your own misery, is what they say.
I watched this documentary on a cruise ship. It was about a cruise ship that is not a regular cruise ship like Steve and I go on every year. By the way, that you're all invited on in January. Our Steve Kane, Brian Craig mega cruise is coming up. But it's a cruise ship where people pay to cruise on it every day of the year. They live on it. And it's a luxury upscale cruise ship. And as opposed to buying like a condo at a retirement community, you buy a stay on this ship and you sail the world for the rest of your life until you can no longer do it, I guess. And it goes all over. It sounds very interesting. And I watched it. It was pretty fascinating stuff. And regular people like us can't go on it. It's a ship just for that. And they went to a support group meeting because these are very wealthy people to do this, all right? And they had a support group meeting for those who were suffering from what's the word? Influenza.
Yeah, influenza.
Influenza. These are affluent people, and yes. They suffer from just being wealthy, and they and I thought it was so bizarre.
Remember that one guy got off killing somebody for that?
Yeah, then he went and committed another crime after he got away with it.
Killed somebody drinking and driving, and the judge let him go for influenza.
Yeah, and there's this cruise ship, they thought, and I saw this support group meeting. This was like on the Travel Channel or Discovery Channel. This is not a comedy. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a Seinfeld episode, but they were serious as a heart attack about how difficult it is to be wealthy and just live on this luxury cruise ship sailing the world your whole life. Oh, no, terrible stuff. But you do see these princes like Hunter, Ashley Biden, Andrew. They're like the second kids, right? Because Beau was the the Prince Charles of the family. It's like Harry and his brother, and they're just whack jobs because they're spoiled. They have even when I was in high school here in Fort Lauderdale, here in Florida. There was a private school in the same neighborhood as I was in, and I didn't go to the private school. I went to the public school. But I had some friends that went to the private school. One friend of mine, his name
St. Thomas?
Yeah, St. Thomas High School. And it wasn't like Sidwell.
It's where Chris Everett went to high school.
Yeah, Chris Everett Lloyd. It wasn't like Sidwell Friends Academy. It's not that level of private school.
No, but it's one of the most well-known private schools in Broward County.
It was a pretty fancy private school at the time.
Catholic.
Yeah. And a friend of mine, his name was Sean. He was a football star, and he got like a free scholarship to the school, and he was a good friend of mine. And so I used to go to these parties with him sometimes with these rich kids, and they were parties like I'd never seen.
Oh yeah, that's where all the good drugs are,
and houses
because the kids got all the money.
Yeah, the houses were massive, and they had good booze, and I saw people doing things that I didn't even know what those things were. Even still today, okay.
Are you speaking? What in what context are you speaking?
They would talk about different drugs they were doing that I've never heard of, that I don't know what they are.
Other things.
No, it was very strange, and they were rich, and not everybody that is rich is like Hunter Biden or these kids I'm talking about, but a lot of times children are very, very spoiled, and they end up like Hunter Biden. But then again, there's a lot of children that are born wealthy that are squeaky clean Marines like Don Jr. and Eric and things like that.
Don Jr. did have a drinking problem, and he's talked about this. And unlike Joe Biden, his father immediately took control and gave him an ultimatum and was kind of, Donald Trump does not tolerate drinking of any kind because of his brother.
Yeah.
And he kicked somebody off The Apprentice because she had a DUI, Khloe Kardashian.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said she's a loser. I mean, he doesn't mince words. So I know Don Jr. talked about he had a drinking problem in college, which a lot of college guys do. There's a lot of alcohol. And he said his father talked to him and set him straight. And he said, I straightened up real quick because he said, my dad does not mess around. And you can hear Joe Biden in that phone call. You can hear how weak he is. Like, whatever you need. You know what I mean? Instead of being like, this is BS, I'm tired of your nonsense, and it's got to stop. Instead of being a father and being authoritarian with his kid, he's wimpy. And this is probably how it's been they have a very sick, codependent relationship. And it's probably become even more so because Beau's not here. And like I said, he enables, and Beau and Hunter probably listens to that voicemail and probably laughs, and he says, my father's such an idiot. He's so stupid. Well, and then he goes off with the hookers again.
And you hear how Joe is whiny.
He's
like
whiny.
He's whiny. He's whiny.
He's whiny. He's wimpy. because I don't think he really wants to help his son deep down. I think he doesn't want to be bothered. I think he just tells him what he wants to hear. I'm sure he loves his kid, and he says, I love you if you need anything. But I don't think Joe Biden really wants to do anything about it. You know what I mean? It takes too much effort to do that. He doesn't want to be the strong man with his kid. He doesn't want to give him an ultimatum. He doesn't want to cut him off because he uses his son. He needs his son in this state. When he enables his son, like I said, they have a codependent relationship that's very dysfunctional. Hunter Biden gets what he wants, which is the drugs and the hookers and the access to the money. And Joe Biden gets what he wants, which is using his son for these inroads with these leaders. They use each other for their own nefarious reasons. And it's a very sick relationship. And you can hear in that phone call, he doesn't want to help his kid. Well, if you, just call me if you need me. Okay, bye. Talk to you next week.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's,
it's pathetic.
Donald Trump, when he found out his son had a drinking problem, can you imagine that phone call to Don Jr. when Donald Trump got a whiff of that?
Couldn't imagine. He
probably ripped him a new one.
You have to go out and get a real job. You're going to get cut off.
He probably said, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
You'll be dead to me.
Well, I don't know if he'd say that.
I could see it. And you stop drinking right now or you're being cut off completely from the family. And I'm not lying. And when he said it, he meant it.
Now,
that's the difference between those two fathers.
Now, over the weekend, Kathy and I, we uploaded on our Patreon page for Patreon supporters a Patreon exclusive podcast episode. It's just Kathy and me, and it is a full-length podcast episode available only to Patreon supporters. It is there now. We talked about a lot of the stories that were going on Friday and over the weekend. So check that out, those of you that are Patreon supporters. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, please do. There's a link in the episode description on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Or you can go to my website, briancraigshow.com, and learn how to become a Patreon supporter at briancraigshow.com. There are many perks and benefits, including these Patreon exclusive podcast episodes that we upload there that only Patreon supporters ever hear. No one else gets to hear them. And a lot of other content and perks as well. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every podcast episode. And the names you will hear in just a moment are our top Patreon supporters. And if you become a top Patreon supporter, your name will be added to that list. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, and Rome, Wisconsin. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And again, go to briancraigshow.com and learn how you can become a Patreon supporter. Well, listen, it's just the beginning of the week. A lot is happening. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll talk to you next time.
There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist. Dr. Sean Hall on SoundCloud. Dr. Sean Hall is a medical doctor, researcher, healthcare leader, innovator, medical policy advocate, certified futurist, and he's on the Forbes Business Council. Dr. Hall loves helping other people. He discusses health policy as well as research to help patients who have unmet needs and believes we need leadership and change in healthcare. He's uniquely passionate about leadership, change, healthcare, health policy, mental health, biotechnology, drug discoveries, and pain management, and he shares his expertise with you on his podcast. Dr. Sean Hall covers more than just science. He also discusses important topics in the business world. Each episode is under 5 minutes, and full of valuable information you can use. The more you know, the better your life will be. It is important to have someone in your corner that can give you great insight and direction. Dr. Sean Hall's podcast is interesting, intelligent, and thought-provoking. Check it out today on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Dr. Sean Hall. That's soundcloud.com/Dr. Sean Hall.